Ladies and gentlemen, we are live, as this is the main event you've all been waiting for. Brought to you by Exonius, the cybersecurity asset management company. It's time!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Virtual Coffee with Ashish on Cloud Security Podcast. And today we are talking about another cybersecurity career option that you would have coming into cybersecurity. If you are a new beginner person and you're looking at options to get into cybersecurity, this is probably one of the, well, I don't want to say easiest, but I'll let the expert talk about this, who has been working in this space for a while. But I definitely feel it's something that is worth considering if you are someone who's like an entry-level role and trying to find what that next step would look like. All right, let me cue the music in and not make you guys wait anymore. Hey, welcome, man. Welcome, Gerald.
I love it.
How's it going,
I love the walk-up music. That's a nice touch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to recreate. I know we've been kind of in this online world for some time, so I wanted to recreate what it would be like if I had you on a live stage. I would love to do this, and I think my hope is actually my secret desire one day when we can all, I mean, at least because Australia is still in lockdown, and when we can go out and have live events again, my hope is to have people like yourself come in. But this was playing on a live stage, and all of us. You come in with this vibe going on everywhere. Anyway, I can whole concept file.
I like it. I like maybe a fog machine going on there. Some strobes. Yeah.
There you go. We're already going, man. So I know we digress, but I definitely would love to do this. But welcome, man. Welcome. Thanks so much for coming in, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm a fan of your show, and I'm really honored to be asked to come on and share my thoughts and experience with your audience.
Awesome. And I could not think of a better person to bring on when we're talking about entry-level GRC as well, because you've been creating so much content in this space. And by the way, I hope you have a drink as well, man. Thanks for coming in for my virtual coffee.
I do. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
I got a cherry limeade flavored water. So it's keep me hydrated, because I like to talk a lot of sheesh. Yeah.
Yeah, is that even a thing? A cherry lime? What did you say it was?
It's cherry limeade. It's just like like one of those squirt things into a water to make water.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. I mean, but I was gonna say, so now since I have you here, and maybe I know a lot about you. I don't know how many people know about you. So if you can probably do a brief intro on, I guess, who's Gerald and a bit about yourself, your industry, I guess, the professional background, and what are you doing these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Gerald Auger. I am a cybersecurity practitioner. I've been in the field for 17 plus years. I did come up on the GRC side of things, although I've got a lot of experience in different facets in the space. From an education perspective, I came up computer science, so very technical. I moved in, and I'm very, very proud that I hold a PhD in cyber operations from Dakota State University, which we could get into that. Why on earth would you go get a PhD, and who would want that? So professionally, for my industries, I was in the U.S. federal IT space for a while, so I'm very familiar with that, which is very heavy in the governance and compliance space, which is why there was so much work there. I moved into healthcare for about 6 or 7 years, worked in the HIPAA space. I ended that journey as a cybersecurity architect, more on the engineering side of things. And today I'm super pumped because I'm actually building my own program. So I'm accountable for my own cybersecurity program at a fairly large manufacturing facility here in the United States. So definitely different challenges, but it's good. In my side time, which is always cracks me up, I adjunct faculty at a Citadel Military College in their cyber science and computer science department. And I run Simply Cyber, which if we get some time to talk about that, or maybe some viewers are familiar with, it's a YouTube channel designed to help people make and take a cybersecurity career further, faster. And for me, it's actually quite delightful because I love it so much that it's basically my hobby, but people are getting a lot of value out of it. So I get to claim it as like a job,
Yeah, and by the way, that's an amazing intro as well. I think we have one of your, I was gonna say supporters and fan folks here as well. Hey, Jax.
Yeah, yes, thanks, Jax. I appreciate that. Jax is wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to get into a bit more about the GRC space because I must say if someone does a YouTube search on GRC, probably on the internet as well, you just dominate that space, man. You just like, it's almost like every time it's Gerald coming in, I'm like, okay, I never need to get this guy to talk about GRC. So for people who may be listening in and probably have never heard about GRC, what is it? And I guess, is that, like, let's just start with what is it first. Let's just go with this.
Sure. Yeah. So GRC is an acronym. It stands for Governance, Risk, and Compliance. And effectively, any cybersecurity program that is, effective for any organization, I don't care if it's small, medium, or large, you just have more bodies to throw at it and bigger challenges to deal with, honestly. You need governance, risk, and compliance. It may not be called GRC. It may just be like implicitly there, but effectively it's the tone. The governance piece is kind of the tone and attitude of the organization. What is acceptable behavior? Are people allowed to install any app they want on their endpoint? Or is it a complete, draconian law? Like nothing happens, you come in and that's it. That's governance. How does this work? Risk is, let's do compliance because that's super easy. Compliance is, some organizations are held to some standard, right? HIPAA for healthcare, federal government has FISMA and some other things. Compliance is effectively for whatever regulatory external body is imposing regulation or standards on your organization, that you are complying with them. Now, it's important because if you don't comply with them, in a very popular one is the payment card industry, PCI. If you don't comply with the PCI standard, the credit card companies will not allow your business to take credit cards. And in 2021, a lot of businesses, that's the only way they take payment, right? So you don't want to upset that group. So you need people making sure that you're complying with it and when auditors come in. So that's the compliance piece. Now, the risk one, I would argue, is almost equally important to governance, if not more important, is organizations don't have infinite money. In fact, it's actually quite hard to get money from the organization to invest in cybersecurity programs because the better we are at our job, the less is actually happening. It's a very perverse incentive to like strive so hard to have nothing happen and then go and ask for money to keep doing nothing, right? That's not what's happening behind the scenes, but that's what's the appearance to the business, right? So risk is about identifying you've only got $5, Ashish, right? You've only got $5 and your car is kind of messed up and you're kind of hungry and you don't have any plans tonight. So what are you going to do with the $5? What's important? Is it important to eat, fix your car, or be entertained, right? You're probably going to go with eat there, but it's still a logical decision that you walk through. You probably don't even think about it when you make decisions, but almost all decisions we're making are risk-based decisions. You're running into the bank. Do you lock your car? Or you forgot to lock your car. Do you run back and lock it or not? Well, no, because I'm only going to be in there for a minute and this is a pretty safe area. You just made a risk-based decision. Amplify that up to an organization, and that's what a GRC analyst does. And that's basically it. Now, I will tell you that I am kind of the person in the space talking about it, but it's because it's less, I don't want to say less sexy, right? But like the red side is notoriously always been known as like the cool side, the dark hoodie, you're breaking into stuff, doing cool stuff. The blue side has kind of amped up itself in the last maybe 4 or 5 years to be more prominent and having more solutions and more training and more just visibility, right? And now purple teaming is like joining forces, like Wonder Twins unite, right? And GRC is like over on the side with like, pushing the glasses up with their little clipboard. And it's like, hey, what about me, right? So no one's giving the GRC people some love. And while I do stuff on Simply Cyber for Red and Blue, I do make sure that GRC group isn't marginalized and they get repped.
Yep. And I think I can definitely relate to that as well. And I do want to get into the YouTube video side of things as well, because for me, I feel like I'm doing the same for cloud security. And it's kind of like, it's not sexy as pen testing or going bug bounty, but it's definitely something which is still, I guess, gets people jobs, helps people pay bills. And there are people who are passionate about it as well. So nothing wrong with GRC, but it's just, I'm glad someone's talking about it, man. And I'm glad you also mentioned the fact that how do I put this? You mentioned the importance of it as well. Like all of us make a risk-based call every day, like that sharp turn that you might take, which might be a bit more faster than what you would have thought you would take it as. That's a risk call as well. But is the importance of GRC more from a perspective of, say, protecting against I guess, bad guys or girls, or is it more around the fact that, hey, this would help me sell more? Because there's two sides to that story as well, where if you're a startup, a lot of GRC focus is more about, hey, how do I get a compliance so I can get that next customer? And I know you do some work in the SMB space as well. So is the importance different between GRC in a smaller organization versus a larger organization?
Yeah, because I mean, you have less cycles, less manpower to apply at the smaller organization. I would say that, yes, for organizations that haven't really experienced any type of pain, meaning an incident, right? They are seeing it as a business enabler, right? We want to do business with Walmart, right? Walmart's a massive player. We want to do business with Amazon, massive player in the space. Walmart and Amazon are not going to negotiate terms with you. They're going to give you the terms, and you're either going to accept them or you're not. And if they say that you are going to do X, Y, and Z, and this isn't even a compliance standard, this is like Walmart's compliant, like you will comply with these, right? If you can't tap into that market, that's a huge amount of opportunity that you're leaving on the table. And obviously you're going to do the cost valuation, right? Well, it costs us, what's the cheapest? I hate this question, but what's the cheapest we need to get compliant? Let's make it, stand it up and make it look compliant, which there are ways to pencil whip compliance and have minimum compliance, right? But I always say, Ashish, like, maximum compliance equals minimum security. You should never be striving for compliance. It's a dangerous road. It's like, I always tell people, like, these small businesses, okay? Yeah. You can drive on the highway at 100 miles an hour. You can do it. You can do it all day long. You can do it without seatbelts on. You don't need a seatbelt. But if there's an incident, you are going to be very happy that you have that seatbelt on. It doesn't prevent you from going 100 on the highway. It protects you if there's a problem. And the chances of a problem happening are unpredictable, right? There's some metrics.
That's right.
Have some, actuarials and stuff like that, but I can't tell you with certainty it's going to happen. No. Do you invest in seatbelts, or do you invest in like a ping pong table, in the break room for like, cause you're a tech startup in Austin, right? So, So anyways, I could flip out about that all day long.
I get you, man. But I just want to quickly acknowledge some of your supporters as well. Hello, Jack. And so Jack's mentioned cybersecurity expert Quinn Michael is on YouTube right now as well. There you go. We have more. That's pretty awesome. We've got more people joining in, including my dog with his butt in the background. I'll
have to check out Quinn. So is Jack Beanstalk, are you saying that Quinn Michaels is also a cybersecurity person that's talking about the GRC space as well? I'd be curious. Yeah, I'd be curious. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And I think I've got Josh talking about he appreciates the non-marginalization as well.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. I think a lot of people expect or are thankful for that. Mm-hmm. Jack's mentioned, I hear people say risk tolerance and then they talk about risk level. What's the difference, or are they interchangeable?
That's a good. Should I take it?
Yeah. Sorry, if it's for you. I mean, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Jax. I hear you. So risk level, I feel, is like a quantifiable thing that you can say, like, you can assess your program against whatever you want. Like, so I'm a big advocate of NIST cybersecurity framework. So you can take the framework, you can measure yourself against it and qualify as this is your risk level, right? Like we're at medium risk, right? Which you should never distill your overall organization risk to like low, medium, or high. That's like insane. But you could break it down further, obviously. And then then you take that as an input into what is your risk tolerance. And risk tolerance is where the rubber meets the road. Listen, we don't have MFA, and phishing is getting credentials all the time. Like, it's a major risk. Is your tolerance, are you willing to invest in, $32 per user per month for Azure MFA in order to eliminate this risk? And then it becomes a financial question for the business, and it's their risk tolerance, right? We always talk about appetite risk, and that's like the most nebulous thing that no one's ever been able to define. But like, when you say, here's our problem, here's the likelihood of it happening and the probability, right? That's how we get our risk. What's your tolerance for it? Are you willing to get that call in the middle of the night, or would you prefer to sleep peacefully? So not to pivot too far, Ashish, but like, there's a main thing in our industry about who owns cybersecurity risk, the CISO or the board or the CIO or CEO. And I always say my job as a CISO is I am there to advise. Yes, I have some ownership of it, but at the end of the day, I'm a very specialized consultant who is there to advise. I can make a strong case on why we need MFA, but at the end of the day, unless I've got my own budget and they're gonna, allow me to do that, it's a business decision, right? And to me, that's the difference. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think I agree as well, because I think I'm just trying to think about, so as a CISO, a lot of the budget that I get as well is primarily focused more on uplifting the security, or I guess maintaining the risks a lot of times, maintaining or reducing the risk. That's pretty much, and I'm sure you'll agree, you can never get at zero risk. Everyone has a risk register that's filled with, I'll just say at least 10 plus items in there on an ongoing basis that they're reviewing and ongoingly working on, right? So that's acceptable. But to your point, that's the risk tolerance that they're going with. Oh, this I can tolerate having 10 high, medium, or low. And I know we're going into a bit more technicality for people who maybe for entry-level perspective, but I definitely find that it's an easier conversation to ask for more money when you understand the risk tolerance of your organization. And if you see something and you go, oh, actually, you know what? That can be solved by MFA, but I know that you guys would love to secure this, and MFA is the way to go. There's nothing else that we have in our arsenal that's going to help us. So 100% with you on that one. And I love the answer about the difference between the level and the tolerance, because probability is something which is really interesting. It's different for different people. Like, what's the probability of it's going to rain today? I'm like, I don't know. Like it's kind of like a finger in the air thing as well, a lot of times.
Yeah, very subjective.
Yeah. And I think to your point, I'm sure you guys do this as well, where every risk is attached to a monetary value. If it's a high risk, it's going to cost me $10 million to solve it. Am I willing to take that? Or I can take $1 million risk, but not a $10 million risk. I think. Do you find that that's helpful as well?
Yeah, I find it's sometimes difficult to quantify with financial. I mean, in some instances, you can say this will result in production downtime. Like ransomware is super easy, right? Because if things go down, you can say, how much do we make a day in revenue? And then multiply it by 6 days, which is the typical ransomware downtime. All right, so I've got a nice, easy number. But it's hard to say, like, what's the financial impact if we lose exchange for a day, right? Like, you can't email. Well, we've got phone. Like, it's very squishy very quickly.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting point, because even that's an arbitrary number that you're kind of pulling up. Suddenly going, oh, I guess it would be $1 million. What do you think, Gerald? Oh yeah, I guess it would be $1 million. Let's put that in. So and it's more of an agreement of like, it feels right.
Yeah, and I'll just, as a pro tip for the entry level people who are tuning in, like anytime you bring a quantifiable number to an executive, they're going to ask you where that number came from, and you're going to have to be able to defend exactly where it came from.
Yes.
So finger in the air, you better have some like little footnotes to support the asterisk.
Yeah. Some kind of understanding, kind of like what you mentioned with like, $20 per user on Outlook. If Outlook goes down, we have 500 users. That's 500 into 20. Like, we come up with a number after that. But I just want to quickly, I hope that answered your question, Jax, but that was a good question. So Jax loves it when you go into a rant. Yeah. And Robert loves it because that means his additional content that he doesn't have to pay for.
Yeah. It's too much passion. It's just passion.
Oh my God. I've got a question from Tesla. What leadership skill do you think is more critical for security practitioners?
That's interesting. Well, it's kind of tricky, right? Like, so are you talking about like from leadership? When you say the word leadership, I think of managing down, right? I think of leading my team. So from that, kind of qualifier of what you're asking, if that's what you're in fact asking, I actually think communication, and communication is important both up and down, but communication to actually lead and provide for your security team, right? So technical skills are great, but they get rusty if you don't use them. Tech stacks change. Maybe you switch jobs. Like, yeah, the concepts stay the same, but you got to learn a new tech stack and stuff. But the way that you engage with people and the way that you can unify a team towards a common goal, that is incredibly valuable, because I don't care how good you are, you're going to be more effective with a team that's all rowing in the same direction, right? And that's for me what I think a critical skill is for leadership. And I know it doesn't really. It could be any industry, right? It could be cloud, it could be IT, it could be anything. Yep. But I think it's so important to understand what is important to the people and what do they need to do their job. Like that's how I see leadership skills.
Yeah. I think it's pretty, and if I can add something to it, because you touched on something really interesting earlier, where it was more about understanding the business and their risk tolerance as well. I feel like a lot of, at least security leadership, if we were to kind of put that hat on, a lot of that comes down to an organization would not spend too much money, A, if you can't explain the risk properly, and B, if it's not something that they care about. So having an understanding of the business, like to a Walmart example, they would not care about the latest cloud technology unless it's actually helping them, say, deliver goods faster to anyone who's ordered online today. They do an Amazon thing. Like within an hour, the thing is outside your house. Like if you tell them that, they would, oh my God, yes, sign me up. But if you tell them like, oh, it's a massive cloud technology, you would do this amazing thing, it would just be like roses and petals everywhere and on your website, like, don't care about that, right? You know what I mean? Like with the business understanding.
Yeah, it doesn't translate directly to revenue. Like, I mean, maybe you could make a case for it, but you'd have to really refine that elevator pitch on why it's gonna be that way. But we're kind of a cost center right now, which basically means we don't generate revenue. We're just like an expense that the business has to absorb. But we're changing that. We're changing that. We're also seeing it in insurance, cyber insurance space. So like every business right now wants cyber insurance because that's how you protect yourself from ransomware. And a lot of cyber insurance and companies have gotten burned because of those policies coming due. So now it's like, what's your security posture? And if it's not up to snuff, they won't even write you a policy. They won't even talk to you. So you're almost motivated and incentivized from the business at that point. The business comes to you and says, we need these 4 things. Please do it. And you're like, how do you even know where my office is? Like, I never seen it down here.
I think he agrees with what you were saying as well, Tesla. But I think I just want to quickly add something there, because I think I've been lucky enough over the last couple of years that I've been running the podcast, right? I met at least 3 CISOs who've changed that whole cost center conversation for me. And it was amazing. I definitely want to share it with you. So I love where this is going. Anyway, I want to come back to entry-level GRC role as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the audience. This is good stuff though, but please go on.
Yeah, because this is still information that you would appreciate as someone who's consuming content in this space. I met 3 CISOs who made their companies deliver security products. Like one was Akamai's CISO. He made the company realize, hey, we are more than a website delivery service. We could be a service on top, a security service on top of it. And then I met the Snowflake CISO, who's made a data security as a thing. Like they actually offered that as a service. So that was really interesting examples. And I definitely encourage people to go check out. As someone who's already working in an organization, if there is something that you feel is a security product, and if you, I guess, present a good enough business use case to the organization, like, hey, you can make money like this as well by giving more value to your existing customers. And I'm like, oh my God, like, so we're no longer a cost center at that point. We're actually revenue generating at that point, because security product is a product suite in the business at that point. But I want to stop there, but I'll get your quick thoughts on that. And then we can come to the next question. What do you think of that?
No, I think it's completely awesome. It's tough though, because like that can be done in the big tech space pretty easily, but other industries, I'm just thinking myself, manufacturing, like I can't add a cybersecurity widget to a ball bearing. Like, like it's not.
That would be interesting though, but
yeah, it doesn't translate as well. But to take it back to entry level GRC, for the people in the audience, as we migrate back into those conversations, the questions answers we're giving in the discussion we're having is starting to paint what I would argue is like a full scope picture of the cybersecurity program. And as you get that entry level role, you're going to be asked to do a couple things, and I hope you do them well. But you won't have your head down the whole time. If you look up, you'll see these things that we're talking about. And that once you figure out where you sit in the bigger picture, you can start actually, expanding your roles of responsibility, figuring out what you actually like, and starting to level up. So there is a lot of value in these conversations.
100%. And I think we can definitely answer Tom's question as well, just came in as well. What would an entry-level GRC analyst expect to do? I would think the company policies would come from a senior manager.
Yeah. So thanks, Tom. Tom's a member of the Simply Cyber community, so it's good to see him on this.
Welcome, Tom.
Yeah. So an entry-level analyst, what you're going to be doing is, I don't want to call it grunt work, But like a lot of the stuff that you're saying the policy would come from the senior manager. Yeah. So the policy probably would come in like a rough format. And then the senior manager might send it to you and say, hey, listen, why don't you run this up against like a couple different industry best practice policies, see if there's any gaps, see if there's anywhere we can collapse it down. Think of it like a professor and like a grad student, kind of like that way, where you're doing, or a mason and a mason tender. Like there's the artisan, and then there's the person who's like apprenticing essentially from the artisan. I would argue that's kind of like what entry-level GRC is. Also, there's a lot of documentation on the GRC side. So you might get someone who's like, all right, we need this, this, and this, and then you go off and collect those artifacts, because when you're trying to put together a system security plan, which is a really important document that outlines how your program is built and actually implementing. And when an auditor comes, if you can hand them one of those, they like give you a high five and buy you a cup of coffee, right? So but that's like a 200-page document, 300-page document, depending on how big your program is, what it's based on, a million other factors. So by an entry-level person, I might say to them, hey, listen, we're going to be doing an enterprise risk assessment for 2022. We're starting to plan now. I'm going to schedule all the meetings. I'm going to schedule all the work for you. So you don't have to understand the scope of our program. What I need you to do is take this, checklist or audit list or punch list or whatever, and I want you to go talk to the people that I set up the interviews with. I want you to get their answers. How are we doing this? I want you to get evidence, artifacts, and stuff like that. I'll meet with you weekly because I'm working on other things, and we'll meet weekly. I'll keep you online, keep you on track. And basically that's how you should be going through it from a progression perspective, because you go through those a couple times, and then, I'll still meet with you, but you really don't need me to tell, because when you come meet with me, it's already sorted out the way you are. And now you've moved into like a mid-tier analyst, basically, where you can go off and, hey, we got upcoming like IATF audit. Here's the standard. You know the drill, go for it. And like, it's a complete standard that I'm not even familiar with, but I've got confidence that you're mid-tier. Oh, by the way, congratulations on the promotion, Tom, because now you're going to be running this project by yourself. That to me is what entry-level GRC analyst work could look like in most organizations.
That's pretty awesome. That's a great answer, and I hope that answers your question as well, Tom. Quick comment from Josh. I've seen pretty detailed cybersecurity questionnaires, and yes, some will deny coverage if answers aren't sufficient. That's true as well. I've got another question from Tesla. Have you noticed how stringent these policies are now? Have to be tied to some regulation or framework, or they pass on you?
Yeah, I think he's talking about insurance policies. Yeah, they really are. Insurance companies aren't printing money. They're trying to hedge between the money they take in and the amount that goes out, and they get a little margin for themselves, right? Or a lot back in the day. And these new ones, like if you don't have MFA, for example, like good luck. You're either not going to get a policy, or your premium is going to be so ridiculous that it literally would be cheaper to just get ransomware. And pay the ransom. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
Which is a perverse thing to think of. But again, let's think about it from the business perspective. The insurance policy is $100,000 and it has a $250,000 deductible, right? So you're in for $350 before you even do anything. Yeah. The average ransomware, or let's say business email compromise, because I know that number off the top of my head. The average business email compromise is about $70,000 hit, right? So you could absorb 4 of those hits before you ever get, or 5, before you even get money out of your policy. So what would you rather do? Pay for it and then hope you don't get hit 6 times, or just take your chances? And any business person's going to say, if that's the numbers, then we don't need the policy, or we don't need MFA. Good luck,
Yep, 100%. I think at your point, it'll come back to risk tolerance as well at that point, whether it's worth spending the money on it as well. Yeah, and he just confirmed, it was definitely the insurance question that he had.
Nice.
One other question from Jax. How could someone gain the appropriate education around GRC and move into a risk management position?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And as we mentioned at the beginning, if you weren't here, GRC, the R stands for risk, and it's the one that really helps the organization make decisions on where to invest and what controls to make and what projects to fund and what's our FY22 projects, right? I will say, I don't know how you feel about this, Ashish, and I've angered some people in the past. So let me qualify this. blue teamers and red teamers can become CISOs. Okay. So I'm not discounting you people. All right. Most CISOs grow out of the GRC tree because the CISO's job is GRC. It's just GRC. Most CISOs aren't hands on keyboard, like tuning SIMs and stuff like that. They're doing GRC stuff. So I just want to tell you, like, if you decide to go the GRC path, if you're interested in CISO, that's a very accessible path for you. Now, as far as getting exposure and experience, like I said before, there isn't a great, cool, flashing lights kind of training platform, cyber range for GRC. GRC is much more about, well, the governance one you can't even really train on because it's more of an attitude of an organization. And the organization is kind of a living organism that takes the personality of the leadership of the company. That's what governance is. So you're not going to get any training on that. That's actually just called life experience. And you just got to, unfortunately, you got to walk that walk and you'll get it. So real quick and then get your thoughts, Ashish. Like with risk and compliance, what I would suggest you do is, read, I know this sounds bad, but read like NIST CSF, read HIPAA, understand what these standards are. You're going to start seeing a lot of, not redundancy, but you're going to see that they have a lot in common. And then you can begin to like look at yourself, look at your own lab, look at your own home, look at your business at work, whatever, and start thinking through like, where are the risks, whatever like that. And then you could do like a fake audit and, so that's how I would approach it.
That's pretty interesting, man. And I did want to, I love how you mentioned the blue team, red team can also become CISO. That's true. 100%. And it's funny because I came from a technical background into my CISO role. And what I realized was if I did not pick up those GRC skills along the way, I would not be a great CISO. 100%. If you just did, I don't know. For me personally, I did a lot of migration of cloud, helped a lot of my enterprise get into cloud, did security architecture, did some SOC work. That's all very technical, right? You go into that space, but what you realize is after a certain point, or at least in I don't want to use the word hierarchy, but there's a bit of hierarchy in that space where once you get to that CISO position, no one's really talking about what's the best SIEM out there. Or what's the, I guess, most you can do from a SIEM. The questions are more around, I am Walmart. I want to release this product tomorrow. Do you see there's a risk in doing this? What do you think is the technical risk? And go, the SIEM solution said it's amazing. So I think it's amazing. So I definitely bring it back to that because I 100% agree with you that yes, you can come from a red team or blue team, become a CISO, but you still need to have that awareness of GRC and you definitely need to work with either a compliance team member or you need to know compliance yourself because most organizations out there are required to fulfill some kind of compliance requirement, whether it's PCI or whatever. So 100% with you on that one. But I definitely feel, I don't know if there's an official stat on the percentage of how many GRC folks become CISOs versus the technical folks become CISOs. That would be really interesting as well. I don't know if you actually know of any.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Maybe I'll try to David
make
Spark,
a video on that.
Yeah, David Spark sometimes replies to my text messages or DMs. So maybe I'll message him. He's got like, a huge CISO audience. So maybe we can get that poll.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I should ask him as well. Awesome. That was an awesome question as well, Jax. Thank you. Erica, a lot of learning coordination, information gathering, mapping to frameworks, internal self-assessment. Oh, I think she's referring to the analyst question that we had for what's a day like. Often the liaison between the external auditor and the internal teams as well. Yep, that's another good one.
Yep.
Actually, she has a question as well. What's your advice for entry-level GRC analysts when it comes to prioritizing learning specific frameworks or tackling certifications?
What's your advice for entry-level analysts when it comes to prioritizing frameworks, tackling certifications? Oh, that's a really good question. So I always say, Security Plus is a great place to start because no matter what you end up doing, it's kind of industry recognized as like your entry-level starter certification, right? Not to favor one company or another, but that one is. Depends where you want to go, right? So you say framework. So I'm an advocate of NIST CSF. If you're in the European space, I think ISO 27001 is actually still popular for some reason.
Oh yeah, Australia as well, same ISO 27001.
Yeah, so it depends where you want to work, right? And then I would, to take it to Ashish's space right here, even though it's GRC, it's a framework, right? But like cloud is so huge right now. I mean, it's I don't know what Microsoft did, but a few years ago, Microsoft decided like, oh, you know what? We're going to be serious about cloud. And if you look at the adoption rates of Azure right now, it is massive. And as OSs phase out and, identity and access management becomes more and more paramount, and the integrations with other third-party vendors, SaaS vendors and stuff like that, and the ability to use your own identity or your, organization's identity, everybody's just moving up into Azure. It's easier and it's kind of cheaper, which again, going back to the business, is going to be the case. So even though it's not really a framework, I would encourage people check out Azure specifically. And if you go to, I think it's compliance.microsoft.com, you can actually drop in to an entire space that outlines how Azure is complying with all of the different standards. I mean, standards I've never even heard of, and they've got them all in there. And I mean, you can just read all of it and absorb all of it. And if you go through kind of the Azure training, which is also free at, learning.microsoft.com, you can actually set yourself up for like a pretty easy sell on yourself as an entry-level GRC analyst, because, most people do have some level of need for GRC work, right? Especially at larger
100%.
Organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that as well, it's amazing how many people still don't know about cloud. So I think there was a stat that came out that only 43% of the enterprise have migrated to cloud. So there's 67 still remaining, or 57 or whatever the remaining 100% is, that they still need to kind of jump on this and go understand the cloud. So if you're a new person who's starting off in cybersecurity, you have the framework understanding from a NIST perspective. I'd love to hear your sort of CMMC as well. But NIST, you have an understanding of NIST, and you come in with, say, some kind of a free learning that you've covered with Azure or AWS or Google Cloud, and that company is already looking at migrating into it. That's a great space to be in, because you had the context of the environment before you even walked in. So interview questions would just be like, oh yeah, I can talk about Azure, I can talk about Google Cloud, or I can talk about AWS as well. That'll be amazing. But I do want to talk about CMMC, because I love Erica's question about the framework. Would you consider CMMC as something that's important as well? I know we spoke about ISO 27001 and SOC 2. Tom mentioned SOC 2 as well. There you go. So that's pretty interesting as well. Another one. So CMMC, what is it? And is that relevant for an entry-level position?
Yeah. So, this is an interesting time for you to ask that question. I literally just posted a video on my YouTube channel, Simply Cyber, for those who weren't here at the beginning, on last Monday, and it was called Next Demand Job. And I basically lay out a case on why CMMC is going to be an area of high demand for job opportunity, and it's a complete GRC role, right? I won't go into it too much. I actually did a live stream a couple days later on what you would do. Like, okay, so like, here's the job and here's what it's all about. 50,000 foot kind of like little taster, amuse-bouche, if you will. And then I did a live stream where I went into like an actual audit plan that I found. And I went through and I was like, this is what this is the scope of the audit plan. This is what CMMC is. This is what you would do if you were going to audit a company, or if you were going to do prep work for a company that needed to go to get audited. Now, what people need to know very quickly at high level is that CMMC is a standard set of security controls that the U.S. Department of Defense is going to require anybody winning new contract work with the Department of Defense. Now, you might be like, I don't know anyone that does work with the Department of Defense. The reality is lots of companies do business with the Department of Defense. Manufacturing companies do Department of Defense. Consulting companies do Department of Defense. Healthcare, like they're everywhere, okay? And if your entire business is hinged on doing work with the Department of Defense, which has like a multi-billion dollar budget, and that's how you feed yourself every day, this thing is going to stop that unless you can comply with it, right? So now it just got put to the forefront of everybody's list. Like, I just took a new job in April, Ashish, and every job I interviewed for, every single one said, "What do you know about CMMC?" Like, some of them had nothing to do with anything. Yeah. And I've got experience and it helped differentiate me as a candidate. Yeah. But they all asked me. It was all on their radar. So I can see it coming. I know it's coming. That they haven't started requiring it, but it's going to be required in 2025 ultimately, which is when you bid on the contract. You need to get audited and stuff before that, 2023, probably, because there's not a lot of auditors. And if you've ever been to the DMV, I don't know if they have the DMV in Australia, but like if you go to the where you get your license and stuff like that, or you go anywhere and there's only one window open, you've got to wait in the same line as everybody else, right? So if there's only a couple people who can do the independent audit, that is a required step, then companies are going to be like, oh crap, we got to get in line now. So a lot of businesses are ramping this up for 22's budget, 23 if they're behind the curve and stuff like that. So anyways, long story short, this is a huge golden opportunity. I'm telling you, I have I'm a strong buy on CMMC GRC work, Ashish.
I would definitely encourage people to go check that out as well. I think Tom mentioned over here about the Azure resources as well. Azure Governance and Azure Blueprint will help guide you and your GRC policies as an administrator as well. Thanks for that, Tom. That's actually pretty interesting information. And Erica, sounds like a LinkedIn poll. This is our CISO question. I think who would get it? So I definitely think it's a CISO poll, either a LinkedIn question. Thanks for that, Erica. You touched on interviewing, and I think that's an interesting one as well, because you're probably I guess someone who creates videos, but also does work in the industry, kind of like me, which is really interesting because a lot of people, when they reach out and they talk about, hey, how do I differentiate myself in an interview because I don't have any experience, right? And I often talk about the fact that what are you doing outside of just studying in your college or university? Like, I'm keen to know from your side, what have been your advice, and has YouTube kind of something that people can actually utilize as well, considering you're in that space as well?
Yeah. So, I always tell people that, when I look to hire candidates, there's a set minimum thing that, they all have to have. They all got to have some experience, maybe a certain, whatever. Like it's a mixed bag, right? But you kind of weigh it up. But then it's the key differentiators. And if you have demonstrated initiative and proactivity, for me, that is a huge differentiator, because in our space of cybersecurity, there's a lot going on. And with all due respect, I will bring up someone who's an entry level. I'll mentor them, right? But at the end of the day, like I can't like handcuff myself to you and do your job with you for 40 hours a week for like 3 months. Like there's just too much going on. So what I need people to be able to do is take initiative, take some guidance, reach an obstacle and then come back to me, as opposed to being led, right? I need them to come back to me for additional information and then move forward, right? So if you're doing things like take an initiative, and it can be manufactured in many ways, right? So the home lab's the classic example, but I had a candidate that I hired, last person I actually hired. I said, oh, like, what's this right here? And he said, oh, I really wanted to work in the cybersecurity space. I'm a network engineer. I couldn't get in the job. So I created a mentoring program at my company for everybody. And then I put myself through the mentoring program and got aligned to the CISO. And then, eventually, got mentored by him. And then I got a job on his team. So like this dude wanted a job on the cybersecurity team so badly. And the only way to get it was to build a program for the entire company and then put himself through the program. I mean, it's ingenious. It's very smart. And he achieved his goal, and he did it on his own. You know what I mean? It's like that level of initiative is cool. So, but to your point about kind of branding yourself, right? We talk about YouTube. Like we often say that networking is the most important thing, right? So initiative is very important, but how do you find the job? How do you do all these things? Networking is more important than anything. Okay. Like I've had 7 jobs in my life. 4 of them I did not like apply cold to, right? They were, no one gave it to me. It wasn't a spoil system. I earned the job, but I didn't go through the front door. Okay. So how do you network? How do you brand? How do you define yourself? Right. So you said YouTube. We mentioned at the onset, there are not a lot of people doing cybersecurity on YouTube. There are some really well-known people like Network Chuck and Heath, Cyber Mentor's got some stuff, and John Hammond. There's like some really impressive people out there who are doing a lot of great for the community. But like, I challenge you to name 20 cybersecurity YouTubers, right? I think you might have a tough time. So this is like an untapped area that you could totally get into. But I want to preface it by saying that it would be more impactful than a blog post, right? But you could run a blog, but it's your level of effort and time and energy, right? So YouTube, there's like lighting back here. There's this camera. There's this microphone. I've got, this all this stuff going on, right? I got editing of videos. It's a lot of work, right? So then you take it back. Maybe you do a podcast. It's just your voice. It's less work. You can still socialize. You can talk to guests, which like Ashish and I had never met before. I've seen his content. Now we're Now we're friends, right? So we've networked.
Yep.
So, and then you could go down to a blog, and then you could do other things. And one thing that we were talking about right before we went on stream here is, TikTok is a massive, massive platform, right? And the level of acceptance for audio and video quality, I would argue, there's a higher level of tolerance on Instagram and TikTok than there is on YouTube. I regularly get, like, this is a 1080p camera. I have videos from earlier in the year before I got this camera that is 720. And I have people comment me all the time. They're like, bro, 1080p or nothing. Like, get a clue. I'm like, did the video help you? Or, So people don't really, people give me a hard time on YouTube. But with TikTok, I feel like you could do 60 seconds. I just coming up with this on the fly. Like, one thing, if you're really pushing yourself, do a video of one thing you learned every single day in cybersecurity, right? And make that what your TikTok is. 60 seconds, turn the camera on. What'd you learn today? What'd you learn today? Do you want to learn with me? Get people in the comments. Have them chime in on what they learned today. Start a following. Get involved. Like, there's a lot of opportunity. And at the end of the day, you're reinforcing your own learning, which is important. You're networking, which is, arguably the most important. And, you're kind of like giving yourself a third dimension, right? Other than just, grinding on certs and stuff like that.
100%. I think I'll to your point about the networking piece, especially in an online world where a lot of people are living in, where there's not many networking conferences or meetups that you can go to. It's only online events. A lot of people are doing YouTube searches or Google searches for people. So if your blog or your podcast or your video comes online and you go, I wonder where Gerald is from, or I wonder where Erica or Chom and all these other people who are amazing people just asking us questions, where are these people from? And they're creating content. And, they're local to me, or maybe they're in the same state, or they're in the same country. I can definitely work with them, get to know them better, maybe even hire them if the opportunity is right. Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely feel there's a lot more opportunity for, I guess, online networking, for quote unquote. I love the TikTok idea as well, by the way. I feel like I should really give that a shot as well. But I am mindful of the time as well. And I know I'm mindful of the other people's time as well. I did have 3 questions, though, which are just like fun questions towards the end that I normally ask people.
Okay.
And the non-technical questions, just to get to know you a bit. It's more like, so what do you spend most time on when you're not working on GRC and technology?
Like at work or like in my private life?
You can pick either. You can pick either. You can pick because this is more your personality, I guess. So you can choose your personal side.
Oh yeah, I mean, Simply Cyber is like a hobby that I take a lot of individual pride in, and like I don't want to say I'm a perfectionist, but like I like improving whatever I'm putting myself into something. I like to improve on it. So the YouTube has given me a lot of satisfaction of that. But I will say I'm a happily married man and I have children. So like family time is very important to me. I actually made tacos tonight for Taco Tuesday, and that experience.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, doing stuff with my wife and kids is really good. And I will tell you, I'm terrible at it, but Fortnite is the game of choice here at the Auger household. So my kids are always showing me or schooling me on the platform, but yeah.
Fortnite. I can definitely get some lessons on that one. People just saying thank you as well. Thanks, Robert. So what is something that you're proud of but is not on your social media?
Oh man. So something that I'm proud of, I have been to the South Pole. Like I've sat around, physically sat around the South Pole, like Indian style. So I was in every time zone all at the same time. Yeah. And no one really knows that, but it happened.
Wait, so is there literally a pole in South Pole as well? That way you just go, this is the point, this is the South Pole point. Is that like a thing?
So there's 2 poles in the South Pole. There's the ceremonial pole, which looks like a barber pole, and it's got a gold ball on it, and then all the flags of the countries that are involved. That doesn't move. That's like right outside the main building, and that's where people take pictures and stuff. Then there's a pole that they reset every year because the South Pole is actually a magnetic South Pole. So Earth rotation and changes and shifts and stuff like that, they have to recalibrate it every year. So like, it's kind of funny. There's like this big fancy ceremonial piece. And then like way over here, there's just like the stake in the ground with like this special gold thing on top that they change every year. That's the one I went and sat around because it was truly every time zone at the same time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely need to put that in my bucket list and for things that I do when Australia comes out of lockdown.
Well, can I just tell you really quick? GRC took me to the South Pole. I went down there to audit the National Science Foundation's research laboratory against FSMA compliance in 2013. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So you can travel with GRC as well. Like everyone listening and going, oh, I would love to do South Pole.
Yeah.
Maybe get a GRC role as your first role as well then. That's pretty awesome, man. And it's a pretty amazing story as well. Last question. What's your favorite cuisine or restaurant that you can share?
Oh, so I'm actually like a huge curry fan. I don't know if I've ever said this on stream or publicly before, but like I am like, I could just eat curry for the rest of my life. Like typically I make a good butter chicken dish I'm very proud of. So like if we'll make a butter, so if we have butter chicken, I always make extra sauce. So then the next day I'll make like a breakfast sandwich slathered with butter chicken sauce. And then that night I'll make like butter chicken pizza, with the sauce. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah, so curry is my jam. Or korma or vindaloo or whatever you want, but like basically kind of an Indian gravy based cuisine is
that's
my
pretty
jam.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think I find people enjoying your South Pole story, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Tom enjoys it. Jax loves it as well. By the way, Jax mentioned her is beer if it was food. That's her favorite cuisine. Thanks for that, Jax.
They used to feed it to kids, right? During the the blight or the Black Plague or whatever. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think in Ireland they even came up with a slogan that the Guinness is like a healthy food. So a Guinness a day keeps the doctor away, or something. Like, yeah. It's like apparently it's quite it has a lot of protein and a lot of minerals and whatever. Oh right, okay, yeah. Apparently they were even giving it to pregnant women, and I'm not gonna comment on that. These are rumor mills, man. But I'm pretty sure Guinness is definitely considered a healthy drink. Let's just say that. And this is a practice from a way in the day. Definitely not encouraged right now. So if anyone's listening in, please do not consider drinking.
I was gonna say, can you imagine going to work with like 3 Guinnesses in you, and you're like, I just had it for breakfast. It's a healthy cuisine.
It's my lunch pack with 3 Guinnesses. Because I think it'll be really detrimental for your health if you just keep doing that. Let's just say that. So I do want to leave in that message so people don't hear that first part and just go like, oh, she said Guinness is high protein. I'm like, no. It is just something. It's an old wives' tale, if for lack of a better word. Let's just sort of encourage alcoholism, but moderate and enjoy drinking. That's what I would say. On that note, I think we're towards the tail end, and I wanted to definitely, I guess, ask you to share where can people find you, and because I really appreciate the conversation that we had a really interesting conversation going about from a GRC, CISO. We had so much information in there, so I definitely would encourage people to come back and have a look at this as well. What would you say? Where can people reach out to you, man? If they have follow-up questions or if they want to reach out to you about more of this?
Yeah, so I mean, the easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm very overtly, communicative on LinkedIn. I do have a Discord server for Simply Cyber that I actively engage with my, my audience or the people who are part of the Simply Cyber community, which I'm just another member of that community. So check that out. But if you go to Simply Cyber on the YouTube, or you know what, actually, simplycyber.io, that website is my website that kind of is like ground zero for Simply Cyber and for myself. And then everything me and Simply Cyber is accessible through that site. So simplycyber.io is definitely an easy one to remember, and it's got everything.
I would put the link on the show notes as well, man. Thanks so much for coming in, man. And thanks for everyone else who joined us as well and asked those amazing questions. I think we have, this weekend, we have someone coming in from Atlassian. And next week, we have someone coming from SOC, from a SOC perspective as well. So we'll see you for those ones. But for the moment, thanks so much for this, Gerald. And I am looking forward to having more conversations, considering now we have started. I came here from the LinkedIn posting and now subscribe to Ashif's channel. Thanks, Robert. I really appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. I love the bow tie as well. Like very fashionable. But no, thanks so much for coming with, man. I'll see everyone. Hit subscribe. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that, Tom. I think I would see you soon, my friend. But this has been really amazing. I feel I can talk to you for hours, man.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
we can probably have some of the people from the audience come in as well and chime in. But thanks so much for coming in. And
Yeah, let's do it
sorry,
again
go on.
sometime, Ashish.
For sure, man. For sure. I think I definitely feel I need to cover more GRC in my channel as well.
Mhm.
I've been doing a lot of cloud security. GRC is definitely is something, especially for people who want to go down the CISO path, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
That's there for you. But you've definitely dominated the space, so I definitely need to bring you back again. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Gerald, and thanks everyone else. We'll see. Talk to you soon. See ya. Peace.